Oh, you whiz. Well, first of all, thank everybody for coming today. It's a great opportunity. I've got a lot of friends obviously here and a lot of people that help get this book together. Obviously not many people do 50 years in AFL and footy in general, but to Warwick, you do it so well. I mean, with your computer and my brain, we can work as a team. Some people struggle to work as a team. But it'll be a successful book, there's no doubt about it. Getting the photos together over all those years, I've got probably 80,000 photos at home, and I keep them in a library. And I know Geraldine thinks that the house is jam-packed full of stuff, but getting it out on show and getting people to read different parts of a person's life is what I've enjoyed reading about other people right throughout the whole world. Definitely to Geraldine and Sam and Jessica and Chelsea and young Thomas. Great to see you out in town, son. Creating havoc already. But to James and Gavin, coming along today is take some time out of your life. Incredible sort of group. Coming after your first decade to meet and look at two young people coming to Essendon. One from Canberra, 79th draft pick, not wanted, 78 times. Gavin helped grow Essendon. As soon as we signed Gavin, we had 5,000 females sign up at the club straight away. Sort of like an AFL version of George Clooney. So we had Robert Redford and George Clooney come to the club. Grew our membership enormously. And we had to do something after Moorcroft and Barnard. But to Brian Ward, who's been my solicitor for most of the 50 years, to Brian Donohoe and Neville over here, been fantastic little board members of Essendon that work through difficult times to work through how hard it is to keep a club up there for nearly 3 decades. It's very, very difficult. And of course, to the fans. The fans are what this really book's about and what it's for. To me, it's just about relating what some of the great times are in our country. And I think sometimes we don't look at it that way. I think sometimes when you look at your journey, and the first photo I really enjoy in the book is the MCG, 1956. And you're looking down and from St Ignatius, and you get an aerial view basically, and that's a sort of view, but obviously 1956 is when we had the Olympics and TV first come out in our country. And I thought it was jam-packed full of everybody and everything, but really when you look at that photo, it's incredible. There's nothing there, nothing hardly there. For our country to get the Olympics a decade after the war is incredible. And I think that was an enormous inspiration to a lot of Australians, finding somewhere in their life what maybe could they do with their life. Definitely it happened to me. And how to get to the MCG and to be able to do 372 games there in my life was just a fantastic sort of dream come true. The Tigers with Tommy Hafey and Graham, whose wives are both here today, and the late Alan Schwab also, incredible sort of people to meet, particularly when you're 19. And my father had died at that time, and the next person I met was Tom Hafey. Incredible. And both hard workers, but one on fitness and health and sport, and a ferocious determination in Tom. And Dad just had to work because we had 7 kids, in totally different sort of reasons. And it's great to see my grandson's name's Thomas, because it's always been a very strong, powerful name, even in my son's name, Samuel Thomas. So those early days actually give you a real good bank to work off, and my best coaches I've often said has been my brother, Patrick, and of course, one of the most competitive coaches was David Parker. Thank you for being here, David. Totally two different people in many ways, but very determined to want to have some sort of success in our lives in regard to sport and off the field in general. I think when I look back on some of the opportunities that Essendon and Richmond, both clubs gave me, were incredible. One is to find out about your inner self that you didn't know, and that was when I met Richmond and people like Tommy and Graham, because when I went into Richmond all I thought was about skill, and when I come out of Richmond all I thought about was kill. Just a ferocious, dynamic club that would take nothing, but it will cost you everything to win. They were the Tigers, and I'm so proud of them this year. But to me, every month or 2 months, Tommy or Graham or Alan Schwab would have a great person come to talk to the players. And to have that opportunity when you're a teenager is incredible. For me, to Herb Elliott, or a Ron Clark, or a Lionel Rose, or a Sid Patterson, and they're on your doorstep, and they're in your face talking about what it takes to be someone in your life. Incredible. Just incredible. And this is when you're working of a day, you come off the building site, you're going to train and you're going to meet Dennis Lilly. Just that sort of is what this book's about. Playing and coaching, in the end, I would have thought by the time I left the Army, I had a fantastic career in the Army for 2 years. I look back, it was probably one of the best years, or two of the best years I've ever had in my life. Because I learned totally about weapons. You know, when you leave a plumbing site, and one day after the 1969 grand final, Monday you're in the Army, and within 3 months you've got a machine gun in your hand and a hand grenade and plastic gelatinite, you better get your shit together. Because that is dangerous. So all these sorts of platforms are developing itself, and by the time you come out of the Army, it's back into Tom Hafey and Graham Richmond and Alan Schwab. I took a job full time, and of course the last 40 years of the 50 years have been full time in footy. So that was a very lucky, good fortune to be asked to be the first full-time development officer in the AFL. First full-time coach, which the boys over here made sure that I could achieve that, to take on risks. People said don't do it, it's ridiculous, it's foolish, and yet Essendon allowed me to be a full-time coach because you never coached. And to go up against Kennedy and Jeans and Parkin and Hafey and Barassi, there's 6 top-line great coaches there, and you would never want to go. So to be able to do that full-time, Essendon gave me that opportunity, which I have always felt appreciative of. To get the team going around the country playing practice matches to find out was a great opportunity to meet people and players and supporters from the whole of Australia. Now, you could never do that if you didn't have a forward-thinking club, people that you worked with that gave you that opportunity to develop what concepts and ideas. There were no Aboriginal players and people living in Chapel Street, mate, so we had no idea about Indigenous culture at all. And the more we flew, the more we saw great players play. I reckon 3 times we went to Darwin and got beaten by Indigenous teams in Darwin, and we were trying, just that they were better. So it's quite amazing. You think, we better go and get some. Not that hard. But in the end, of course, the concept in the end was quite simple, because before Michael Long and Nicky Winmar come to Melbourne, there were only 28 Aboriginal players that ever played in Victoria, in VFL level. 28. And since then, 330 have been signed in the AFL. Incredible story in itself. Anzac Day was a gift. Was sitting there for 80 years before we rang Bruce Ruxton. And the only reason we rang Collingwood is because they turn up whether they win, lose or draw. It doesn't matter. We knew they were going to turn up, Collingwood. So, of course, that all started because the late Ron Evans said, go away and find up some ideas you could think we could go to the MCG, because we can't take 20,000 people from Windy Hill to the MCG because we'll go broke. So in the end, our icon games have been really good, really lucky, supported by the club in the end, the AFL. The AFL don't have the capacity often to think about things, but they're in a busy life themselves at head office. They don't make every decision right, but they try to get everything right. But Anzac Day, Essendon. Dreamtime, Essendon, Richmond, perfect. Exactly, Thomas. Perfect colours for Richmond and Essendon, the Aboriginal flag of Australia. Country game's going to be the most successful nearly out of all of them. I can't believe how big this game's going to get. There's so many legs to it, it's incredible. The last 6 months been going around Australia and around the world and speaking at different conferences. I think that's going to be a sellout, just pretty much like Anzac Day and Dreamtime. And there's another one or two that we can keep in the cupboard and bring them out when the AFL's awake. Okay, so I'll wake up sooner or later. I mean, we actually happen to get 80,000 to Hawthorn, Essendon first game this year, and of course, what do? We're not playing them. How dumb is that, you know? 80,000, no love between Hawthorn and Essendon, and they give us Adelaide. Wow, yes. David, we could help them with some knowledge and education, mate, surely. Love the photo with my son, with Muhammad Ali. It's my favourite photo, obviously. We haven't had the book. I think that's one of the best shots you'll ever have in the history of the world. Not many white guys ever got their left fist right on Muhammad Ali's nose. It's the only photo I ever really took, but it's a good one. So photos remind me of different passages in your life, okay? And then you write the story around the photo, hopefully. The Giants were wonderful. To do something worthwhile at 61 years of age, go and live in another city in Australia with 45 year 12 students, 6 retirees and Israel Folau. It was a different cause, but what an amazing club to get there within the first 5 years, the 2 preliminary finals, and one of them beaten by a kick. So that gives kids the opportunity out in the west of Sydney and west of New South Wales, which is the zones area of the Giants, gives those kids an opportunity. And that's what it's really about. So, and I think they'll be successful, but I think it'll take a while to be successful. I think it's not easy, as we know, how tough it is for a club like Essendon, who is now having to wait 17 years for a premiership, and Richmond 37, Bulldogs 61, Melbourne, you may as well forget about it at the moment because they've struggled. So they're hard to win. And Carlton have gone through their 2 decades basically themselves. So it's a tough game, it's a beautiful game. I think we can readjust it to get to where it should be, not to where it is. I think that means that there's just a little bit of flexibility there. And I think that we need to sell it to the world better than what we're doing. So thank you so much for being here. I hope everybody enjoys the book. I do write some scribble notes there, like Purdy said. I do a lot of scribbling. And I sat on the plane to America 3 weeks ago and wrote a whole new group of chapters of thinking that we could really look at and apply into our game in the next sort of 5 to 10 years. So if we get that right, then we're a very, very, very inspiring game in this nation. It's the sport that soccer doesn't beat, and probably won't beat it. because the game itself is quite incredible. And it was born in Australia by Australian people. And every time you meet an international person, they always say, how long has this game been going? And that's in itself a credit. Yesterday I spoke at 2 conferences for elderly people, my age. And we had a great lot of fun yesterday. These people asked me to do the function. Jeanette writes out my orders. Where is Jeanette? I can't see her. She's hiding somewhere. All right, over there. Thanks. I said, look, I want to do a deal with you people. And of course that was that I need something from them for me to come and make them have some fun today, even though I'm getting paid. I said, I would love you people to write down 3 ideas or thoughts. There's 160 people in the room, somewhere between 70 and 103. So what would you like to tell our country and our youth? Your thoughts, some inspirational thoughts, 150, 60 people. And I said, I'll come back and have morning tea with you, but I need to get the 3 thoughts that you would like to share from the whole of your life to our next future generation right now. And they loved that idea. They thought it was worthwhile. So I'm going to go back and get 400 to 450 ideas from 150, 60 Australians. Because I don't think we actually share our ideas. We keep it and we die with them. And I just think we've got to be better than that. Thank you very much. Thanks, Gavin. Thanks, James. Thanks, Rex. And thanks, Geraldine, for not being here. Thank you.